What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. You know, I always like to start this thing out showing love to all those companies who make this podcast possible. Our rock that we've had since day one has been our friends over at Yellow Jacket. So I don't know if you're going to hear this before the new year or after, but regardless, Yellow Jacket has been with me and Kelley since day one. They kind of opened the door to this whole thing that's grown, what this podcast has become. So we want to give our love to them. So, we're going to do them one and only today. So more than 70 years ago, Jack Ritchie set a goal for Ritchie Engineering to become a standard by which all other HVAC hoses are measured. In the last 7 decades, the Yellow Jacket brand has not only become the standard in hoses, tools, refrigeration gauges, manifolds, HVAC vacuum pumps, and refrigerant recovery machines, it's become legendary. How have they done that? Through an unwavering commitment to excellence. It's the single most important attribute in the longevity of a company. While other companies sold out, sent work overseas, or lessened quality, the relentless commitment of their people has led to over 70 years of best-in-class products, first-in-class customer service, innovations that make the contractor's job easier worldwide. So let's join Yellow Jacket in the next 70 years as they commit to changing the standard once again. 70 years of expertise built into every tool. And thank you, Yellow Jacket. We appreciate everything and to see where this partnership goes.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless the United States, and thank you to all of our global listeners.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
If you're trying to take your HVAC game to the next level, then buckle your seatbelt, crank up the volume, and try not to be offended, because you're listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast with Gil Cavey and Kelley McKay. Now, here's Gil and Kelley.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 103-ish, maybe, to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. I'm your host, Gil Cavey Jr., sitting alongside my buddy, old pal, Mr. Kelley Mother Effing McKay. What's up, homie?
What's up, brother?
Same old shit. Christmas, I want this to be over with because shit's too expensive. I'm done. Fuck Christmas, humbug.
Yeah, we share the HVAC Uncensored at Gmail email account, and I see a lot of spending going on from Mr. Cavey.
Yeah, I have an Amazon problem.
He does.
So it just kind of happens. My wife thought I was cheating on her with the Amazon guy, and I was like, no way, he's not my type. But yeah, I guess we won't BS too much. We have several guests tonight, all included. One is someone who I know is a friend of mine and a friend of the show that we will get into how we met. But guys, I think this is one that you really, really need to listen to, because all you business owners out there, it's an issue that you're all going to face. It's a problem you might not even know that you have, and it's something that can be fixed. So really sit back and listen.
Yeah, and I would just say, our guest tonight, we're going to cover all types of aspects of credit card processing, the credit merchant services, and it's something that every one of our businesses use. Even if you're a technician, you're using this stuff every day. But when you're starting a business, when I honestly was in my second or third month before I realized, holy shit, I need a freaking credit card processor, because I hadn't even thought of that. I was worried about my vans and my tools and my licensing and my phones and my logo and you just didn't even think about it. So whether you're new to business or you're looking to save a bunch of money and get compliant, you're going to want to listen to this episode, guys.
For sure. Because even when you think you're doing it right, you might not be doing it right. Just like when we talked about HR solutions, a lot of things that everybody thought they were doing right till they found out, guess what? You're not doing it right. So I guess without further ado, we can bring in Miss Mary Lent first before we meet her bosses.
Hello. Hey. How's it going, Gil? Hi, Kelley.
Good to have you. Thank you for being here. So I guess introduce yourself to the listeners, and I guess let them know how we first met.
Yeah. So my name's Mary Lent. I have a background very diverse. Worked for many, many years, decade in ICU, ER trauma nursing, and from there made a career shift to the HVAC industry and worked for a CRM company. And Gil and I met at AHR, one of the biggest, best conventions that you can be at. We're able to really get to know each other there and just developed a friendship that we carried with us. And through my career, he's always been somebody I've bounced ideas off of and respected what him and Kelley have to say. And when I moved into this new career a while back now, I learned a ton. I just kind of dove in and found out so much that I didn't realize. And like Gil and Kelley were saying, it was problems that I didn't know we had, but we had. And a lot of it just was regarding compliance. And it was minor things that needed to be done, but we weren't aware of it because we were a CRM and we thought our processor had all of that taken care of, and found out that the processor wasn't able to be updating things every 6 months when rules and regulations changed. And in fact, we were surcharging, passing that fee along to the client, not doing that in a compliant way. We were charging debit cards, regardless what card they gave us, they got a 3.5% fee. And that it's not compliant. Visa can shut you down and decide you're no longer going to accept credit cards as a business because you weren't doing it.
Imagine if you couldn't take them nowadays. If you were a business and couldn't take credit cards, that's huge. I mean, that's like close the doors kind of huge because not everybody's playing cash. And real fast, I don't mean to interrupt you, is for some of you dipshits out there that don't know what a CRM is. So CRM is like your Service Titans, your House Call Pros, your Thermogrids, your, all the different ones that are out there. Those are, Customer Resource Manager. Isn't that what it's supposed to stand for?
Customer retention management, relationship management.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I know what it is. Do you guys know what it is? But she worked for a big one. So most of us think, oh, we got this software. We run credit cards. We're good. I don't know why I always look over here. Yeah, we have this software. We're good. Well, guys, this is what we're trying to tell you. Like, you're not. So I really want you to listen to this. So don't listen to the beginning of this and be like, oh, I got this software I pay a shitload of money for. I'm good. You're not. So really listen to this whole podcast and listen to what they're saying, because we all could, maybe you don't, maybe you do have a problem that you didn't even know existed. So we're just trying to get the information out to you to help you. So nobody has to go through this bullshit where you can't take credit cards, where you got some big hiccup. We all just made it through COVID, making it through COVID. Let me rephrase that. Don't know what's going to happen. We don't need any other problems. So, and a lot of people, because they're not working, what are they paying with now? They're paying with credit cards. So just think about that. So I'm sorry, Mary, go ahead.
No, that's totally fine. Like you mentioned, I realized that we had that problem. Actually realized it when Ray reached out to me. Ray is one of the co-founders of Card Choice International. That's the company that I now work for, devote everything to, and really wanted to do this podcast today to exactly what you said, get that knowledge out there so people are aware that this is something that they need to focus, like it can make or break your business. And we really wanted to get that information out. And Ray and Steve is the other co-owner here. They're both here with me tonight. I can't really say that it's uncommon for them to be approachable and be right there. They run all aspects of their business. They are in on everything. They are, speak around the world or around the country, informing people. They're endorsed by several different organizations, from the medical space to CPAs and accounting to, service industries. And, they have backgrounds where they came from owning businesses. And, without further ado, I think both of them will do a little bit better job. You'll just see how their integrity just shows in everything that they do.
Yes.
So,
yes. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Welcome, guys.
Yeah. And before we don't look over this, we talked about before, they also were in a band and they can play, a mean ass bass and a set of drums. So don't get it twisted. Okay. These, but like Mary said, I guess you guys, a little bit about your background. I know we talked off air, but letting the listeners know about you and guys in the trade, what are we doing wrong? Like, how can you guys help us so that we don't lose our credit card privileges and, people don't have to deal with this headache that we don't want to have to deal with?
Great question. Yeah. Just first real quick, my background, just getting into this industry to get the knowledge is a story in itself between Ray and myself. We actually went to high school together. We played music together. So there was a bond of friendship at first. In terms of business, we always kind of had two different businesses. I started out as a civil engineer. Ray was a plumber, so he still has his license, now to plumb. So we actually come from the humble beginnings of, really working hard. Then I went from engineering into a retail environment, owned 4 bicycle shops. So business owners are business owners. We all are going through the same problems. I don't care what business you're in. We're cleaning the toilets, we're ordering, we're negotiating pricing, just like Kelley was saying before. That's right.
You're not alone. As a business owner, you feel exactly alone, right. But you're not.
And so Ray and I do understand, what it is that business owners are going through. And I know in my case, Gil, when you said what's going on? I used to have banks, calling me every other week. Hey, we could run your credit card prices. We can get the lowest price. I think I switched my credit card processing when I had my bike shops maybe 6 times. Always looking for that better deal, right? That promise that, and then they would say, well, that machine that you just got last month to run the credit card processing, in order to get the lowest price, you got to get our machine here, and they put you in a lease, and now you're into leasing, right? And you're into a 4-year lease. So Ray and I kind of experienced the problem that Kelley, we were just talking about before, is what's going on? So when Ray and I built this business, we wanted to build it, more in with integrity. That was our core. And Ray brings on a great point. I know when we first went into business, we said we want to be registered direct to Visa. Ray was licensed, for plumbing. That put his credibility. That was credibility. That's power. He could, that's still power to me. I know what Ray went through to get that license. There's a lot, and everything's on the line with that license. And so we wanted to have that same approach when we got into the credit card side of the business. And I remember telling you, Ray, you're crazy. This is the dumbest business to be in, right? Because everyone,
almost 20 years later.
And so we understand, when Kelley was speaking, when Gil was speaking, we understand your pain because we kind of been there. And so it's our hope today to kind of level the playing field, relieve some of the stress off of your thought, but you're not alone. You're all going through this. Should I take credit cards in my business? Should I not take credit cards? Every business owner thinks they have the right answer, right? And I tell every business owner this one piece of advice, and then I'll pass it over to Ray, is accept all forms of payments in your business. I made the mistake in my bicycle shop. I told American Express to go pound salt. I don't want you. You're too expensive. I know more than American Express. And one of my best customers, wanted to buy a $10,000 road bike, pretty expensive stuff. Put his American Express card down, and I just had to look at him and say, I don't take American Express. I take Visa, MasterCard. Long story short, I ended up losing that business. So these are life lessons, and Ray and I have been through all these lessons. So learn from us. Ask questions. I tell people, pick up the phone, call me. It's free. It's we're here for you. So I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Ray, in terms of, who we are, what.
Yeah, I could give a little bit about. I grew up as a contractor's son, so ever since I could carry a toolbox at 5 years old, I was a plumber. So my dad brought me to job, and that's also where I learned how to play the piano. Because while my dad was working and there was a piano there, I gravitated to the piano and I was able to continue play. I swear, this is God's honest truth. And
That's awesome.
So with that said, so I matured into plumbing. And did get the license, because that license is respect, as you know. And then Steve gave the example when we got into credit card processing in 2003, we got that license right away, the registration with Visa. Okay. That's our instant credibility. Now, one of our main focuses in the very beginning, since I know plumbers, and I'm assuming that HVAC contractors and builders and everything, masons, everyone around that contracting arena, they all had problem getting paid. Because Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones always happened to take the checkbook after you were finished putting a hot water heater in. So there was no way to ever get paid. You'd have to end up sending a bill. So what we focused on at the very beginning is wireless credit card machines that you can carry into the kitchen table and say, oh, I'm so sorry your husband or wife took that that checking account book, but I take credit cards, and here's the machine, and you put it so nice on the table, and can you please pay me? And that's what we focused on, was teaching the contractors how to get paid in the least amount of time. So that was one of our main focuses. And we could talk traditional credit card processing. We could speak about your integrations, whether it's in a CRM or a practice management, so whatever is running your business, whether it's a basic software, we can speak about that. But one of the main points I wanted to deliver tonight was one of the newest technologies, and it's a zero cost credit card processing. So if your clients want to use that expensive reward card so they can get their airline miles, and you, the business owner, have been paying for that, here's an opportunity now to remove that fee from you. So if, say, the average contractor is doing $25,000 a month, just pick that as a number. Some are more, some are less, and it's fine. Their fees are probably over $800 a month in just credit card acceptance. So if you embrace the technology that we have, which is 100% compliant in Visa's eyes, American Express, Discover, and MasterCard, then that's going to give you unfound money instantly. So that $800 roughly you're paying on $25,000 immediately goes to your bottom line. And our technology is a little bit different, where if you've ever heard of a cash discount or a cash adjustment, we'll get to that in a minute, but those are completely in violation of the rules. So our technology will give you an option for your customer to use a no-fee debit card. So if they don't want to pay the surcharge of 3.5% using their credit card, they can now have a no-fee debit card, which will cost you now, the contractor, 1% and a 25-cent transaction. There are no other fees. So if you let's say you open an account with us, you want to do it January 1st, for argument's sake, there are no fees to open up an account, and there's no fees to cancel. Let's say you want to cancel in 2 months, you hated it, whatever it was, there's no fees. So just to keep that in mind, that's something that we definitely wanted to address, because we know that some of your softwares do offer a surcharging or a cash discount program. But as Mary had spoken to and Gil had spoken to a little bit earlier, that they're not probably doing it in a compliant way. I don't want to blanket across all of the board and say they're all not doing it correctly, because maybe they are, but there are certain rules that you have to follow in order to do surcharging properly. And it's only approved in 46 states. So if you live in Kansas, you cannot surcharge under any circumstance. Okay.
Yes,
if you live
Kelley.
in Massachusetts, you cannot surcharge. Okay. Colorado, you cannot surcharge. So these are just, and the last one I think is Connecticut.
For you. So you are
Thanks,
looking
man.
at the next state to be added
Good.
to surcharge.
So thanks. But keep that in mind. If you're in any one of those states, you cannot surcharge. All right. So keep that in mind. So now
Kelley's in Kansas.
So Ray, let me just
sorry, Steve. That's correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate. when Ray says, you can or you cannot surcharge in specific states, a lot of people, when we say it, it's like a deer in the headlights. So I just wanted to explain a little bit what's going on there. Like why, just to say is one thing. The question is, do we understand what's going on here? And there's two things that are happening. One was, Visa never allowed a surcharge. So people don't realize this. It was so, Kelley, when we were speaking before and you signed a contract and, all of us, when we sign up to accept credit cards in our business, we're signing a contract with the bank. And we're signing that we're going to abide to all the rules and all the regulations by the card brands. We don't know what they are, but we're abiding by them, but we don't know what they are. So one of them is that Visa said, there's no discrimination of funds. Right? It's bad for the Visa brand to say, oh, you're using your credit card, we're going to charge you 3%. Visa was like, no, we're just as viable as cash. As a matter of fact, we're probably larger in terms of a commodity than cash is, but we don't want to be discriminated. So what had happened, starting like in 2010, 2012, business owners started to kind of get together and they said, we're going to sue on the grounds of, we feel we should be surcharging. Lo and behold, years later, the lawsuit settled. It never went to court. And in that settlement was now the ability for merchants to surcharge, right? So it's an evolving process. And that's why Mary had said, in Kansas, they're still evolving. And it's a two-step process. One is Visa. The other one is the attorney generals of each state, right? So that's the key here, right? Because the attorney generals, I'm going to pick New York because it's right. I could look across and see the Manhattan skyline from here. New York was late to coming to the table to surcharge, right? And it's because the attorney general in New York felt it was bad business to surcharge because you're going to affect the consumer, right? This was around 2008, 2009, when the economy was really in hurt. And so we were all trying to protect the consumer, right? We were all out of jobs in 2009, the economy crashed. So there was this plea to protect the consumer. Big banks were beating up on the consumer. And so that's why there's this dual rail kind of what's going on. One is Visa didn't want to do it at all. Then Visa said, okay, you could do it. But then the states said, no. We don't want you to hurt our consumer base. And that's why when Mary said, well, Kansas is in the work, right? Slowly but slowly, each state is now learning that, the business owners should be surcharging because quite honestly, credit card fees is probably the number 1, 2, or 3 fee that you're paying in your business. That's digging into your net revenue, right? Like Ray said before, businesses doing around $25,000 in credit card processing. They don't realize it because it's on a daily basis. But when you look at what that is added up over a month, there's about $700 to $800 a month in credit card fees. And for Ray and me, we didn't think that, surcharging was the way to go. Like, we didn't embrace it. It took us a while either also. But now that we fully understand it, now we know all the legalities, I can now come and start to educate. Because there was a lot of education here, right? Because I'm dealing with attorney generals in certain states. So I didn't want to just blanket and say, yeah, this is for everybody. It's for most, right? And 2 states in general, Maine and New York, right? They've allowed it. So they see the power of, but what they've done is they said, we're going to protect the consumer and we're going to protect the business owner. We're going to allow the business owner to surcharge, but the surcharge has to be done not as a percentage, but as an actual dollar amount. And so the question is, well, how does that work? And here in New Jersey, we're used to it because the gas stations here in New Jersey, they list a cash price and they list a credit card price. They've always done this for years. So when you roll up, right from the sign, if I pay cash, there's obviously I'm going to pay less. Yeah,
that just started around
it's
here.
It's weird, like
in Maryland. More of them are doing it. Yeah, you never used to see it, but you see it more.
Since I've been a kid, it's always been 2 prices on the pump. It's weird. Like, so the gas stations in New Jersey have kind of been getting around Visa's regulations for years because they've listed the two prices. And so they're taking that model and saying, okay, Maine and New York, you could do it now, but we just want to see it in that model. It's kind of hard to do that. Like if you're a retailer, you have to have two prices on your shelf for all the product. But for the service industry, that's a no-brainer. Like on your invoice, you could just, this is the cash price, this is the credit card price, right? So it's our role today to kind of just bring some light to some of these, these myths that we hear about. And so one of the things, I'm just going to continue on surcharging, if you don't mind, Ray. Well, yeah. So
no, you're totally fine.
And we deal with this on a daily basis. We have clients that say, "Oh yeah, I've been surcharging for years." Yeah, you think you've been surcharging? You've just been adding a fee. That's all you've been doing. You're not surcharging. And so Visa has been very strict in their rules and regulations on very specific. I'm going to go over 6 specific regulations that need to be adhered to in order for you to say, I'm going to charge more for a credit card. Okay. The first one, as Mary mentioned before, the business owner actually has to register themselves to Visa and MasterCard to let Visa, MasterCard know that you are now switching to a surcharging type of environment. So if the software doesn't do this, if the merchant doesn't do this right off the bat, you're not compliant. That's number one. Number two, the merchant must inform the consumer that we are now charging a separate fee for the usage of the credit card, and there will not be a fee for a debit card. That's what so proper signage has to be given, right? So in the service industry, you don't have a retail environment where people are walking in, but on your invoice, if you're going to do that, it has to be stated on your invoice. If you're speaking to somebody over the phone, has to be told over the phone. Oh, you want to use your credit card? Great. We accept credit cards. Just want to let you know there's going to be a 3.5% surcharge for the usage of your credit card. But if you use a debit card, there will be no fee. So, and that's all in the regulations. Like, people think I'm making this up. I could show you all those regulations. Number 3, Visa says the fee cannot be any more than 4%. Right? And the fee cannot be any more than what you pay for your cards. So basically, Visa is saying you cannot make a profit as a business owner by surcharging. And here's where the problem is. Most businesses don't know what they're being charged for the credit card processing. So they don't know what they're, so if a business is if a business's effective rate for credit cards is 2.5%, and they're charging 4% as a surcharge, they've just violated Visa's regulation just with that one. Like, they could have gotten everything else right. I registered, I'm telling people, but I'm charging them more than it's costing. Yeah.
And that's the worst
offense. So you're in
offense.
violation there. So you could see, I see Gil's head bouncing and Kelley's head bouncing, because it's like, yeah.
I'm writing it down.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but when it comes to, as you were saying, the surcharging and having those not knowing what you're actually paying, right? So what those companies out there that say, I'm going to charge you 2.5%. That's what I'm going to charge you. So explain to people how, there's 300 different card types out there, and every single one of them has a different percentage that it's going to end up being charged at the end. So there's no way to really know, right?
I'll use an example. We were doing an analysis for a very large golf course here in New Jersey. And so they wanted to surcharge their members a fee for club dues, and they didn't know how to go about doing it. So they spoke to Ray and myself, And I said, well, you could do this. And they were just like, no, we don't want to do this. No, we don't want to do this. And they're like, well, then you can't surcharge. I mean, if you can't just say, I'm going to do one of the 6 and I'm surcharging. And so the one thing they couldn't get over, they were willing to do everything, but what they could not establish is what they were paying for their credit card fee. So they didn't know what to make the surcharge. Right. So, yeah, I mean, that is, Mary, is, I've written a course for the New York State Society of CPAs. I spent an hour and a half. It's an accredited course for the CPAs, just teaching them that exact question that you just asked me, is how do I freaking know what I'm paying for my credit cards? Like, nobody knows. And the reason why they don't know is because it's what's called the dynamic pricing model. And there's no other product on the planet that you would buy. Like you go to the supply house to buy nuts, bolts, tubing, hose, pipe. Yeah, this is the price, and if you pay it net 30, or, we'll give you 2% discount, if it goes net 90, so you kind of know what you're paying. With credit card pricing, and I mean, I know too much information, Ray, and I know too much, and I don't want to just, confuse people. But when you have a dynamic pricing model that fluctuates based off of whether it's a consumer card with rewards, a debit card, a corporate card, a government card. Was that card taken over the phone? Was it keyed into the internet? Did I dip the card into a machine?
What's the size of the
variables change my cost. And so if my cost is changing, if
with
my cost,
every single transaction,
that's right. If my cost is changing and I have to charge, Gil for, what it's going to cost you. It's very difficult for me to say it's going to be X. And so what a lot of people do in the credit card industry is they say, oh, our rate's 1.75%. And they just throw a number out there. They really do. They just throw a number out there. And most merchants will attest to exactly what I'm going to say. At the end of the day, that's not what they're paying. That's when they do the math, when they say, how much was I charged in fee divided by the volume it did, I should come up with 1.75.
Well, that's like with us, like you hear in like a lot of times is, since there is no way, like nobody knows the actual number that everybody pays for it, whether they're paying credit card, cash, they just adjust their price so that even the people paying cash are still paying that higher rate to make up for credit card fees. They're not even paying. Like, when we do our flat rate prices, we try to figure that in there because we don't know, and are we doing the right thing? Are we doing it wrong? I don't know.
And here's my advice on that. So this is what people don't think about is you start to raise your price and you put that on a credit card. All you've just done is just raise the fee that you're paying for the product. So you didn't think about that. I mean, so there's actually ways to do this, but that's why we like the surcharge program, because you don't have to think about that. Right? If you just embrace surcharge, and a lot of our clients will say, "Oh, my customer base isn't going to go for that," and I'm going to tell you, I've actually converted many of our service industry clients that use traditional credit card processing with us, and I'm like, "Listen, try it." They were calling us when COVID hit. We were getting calls, into our office. Hey, listen, man, times are getting tough. Is there anything you guys could do on the merchant service fees? Every little penny, every little dime will help. And we just took the attitude. We were like, you know what? Yeah, let me really help you. Why don't you divert those fees to your consumer base? This way you don't have to worry about what it's costing you for credit card fees. Just push it. Surcharge your consumer base. If your service is that good and your reputation is that good, you think someone's going to leave you to go to somebody else for $3.5, for $10?
For $10.
They're not. Like,
yeah.
Or they're going to bounce the check.
So I'm trying to empower businesses to really, to make that step to say, you know what? You're in a service industry, which is the perfect industry to start surcharging, right? Generally in a retail store, It's a lot more competitive. Margins are tight. You know, I could buy this widget right down the street for less, or I can get the pizza over there for a little bit less, you know. But, you know, even that, like, people are not going to go for $30 to go get a pie somewhere else. That guy's pie is that's why I'm coming here. Your food is exceptional. I'll pay the $3.50. And because of COVID, the consumers are kind of on board. They're basically saying, we didn't want to raise our prices. We really don't want to raise our prices. But because of all these travel miles and everything that's everybody's using, you know, we are just going to surcharge those with credit cards. And if you have a debit card, no surcharge, or pay cash or pay by check. And this way you're pushing everything, you know, all that fee that you're worrying about, don't worry about it. And so
I can vouch. Oh, go ahead,
Steve, let me jump in for a sec. Hey, Gil, you just brought up a point. Hey, for credit cards, as fees keep going up, you hate raising your pricing all the way up, because even the ones that pay on a cash or a check, they're still paying the increased credit card fee. Yeah. What you could do now is you can say, listen, we don't want to raise our fees. So our fees are going to stay where they are. If you want to use a credit card, then you're going to pay the fee. This way, the person that wants to pay cash or a check or a debit card doesn't have to pay that increased to cover all credit card fees. So that would be a way you can explain it to your customers on what you're trying to establish, that you don't want to raise your rates. You want to be affordable for everybody. But if you choose that payment vehicle, we'll call it, you're going to pay the 3.5%. But I'm not raising my prices on cash, checks, or debit cards.
Just when COVID started here and the weather started to get warm, you know, we're actually now, I'm watching my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law is now staying with us. So the temperature in the house was critical, right? And our air conditioner the compressor went on the air conditioner. And so we were calling, it's actually, there was a bad storm, like all that power went out and it surged our compressor.
I'll give you a good deal.
But here's the point, though, right? Is when the contractor came, it was an emergency repair. And I asked him, do you take credit cards? And he said, no. And as a consumer now, I mean, I felt bad. I mean, I wasn't expecting that expense, right? And so now there's kind of animosity that, you know, I'm in a bad spot. Now he says, no, I don't take credit cards. It almost feels like you're squeezed when I know it's so simple to take credit cards. So
yeah,
that's right.
It's 2020.
But there are so many contractors. Yeah. But there's so many contractors that are not taking credit cards. And this is a great opportunity for them to start taking the cards without having to pay the fees.
And they're not taking the cards because of the fees, because they don't want, they can't afford it. They can't
afford it.
So they're not doing it. You know,
guys, there's other value to accepting credit cards. This is going to be a general statement, whether you're surcharging or just traditional credit card processing, is you could bundle up an email and send out, and your customers can pay. Like, let's say you're working in a house right now and no one's home and you're finished. Well, you could send the email, and once you get back to your office or your home, and then they can click on it once they receive it and pay that invoice right through the email system. Okay. We have a very secure and compliant email system that allow you to generate an email. So it's about cash flow too, is accepting that credit card. And let's say that Mrs. Jones, you kind of know her, and she doesn't have the money, and she owes you $3,000, and you don't, and she doesn't have a finance program. You don't have a finance program. You could actually break up inside of multiple systems that we have.
Customer you want, if
$500 until she's paid down over the course of 3 to 6, 7, 8, 9 months, however you want to break it out, and give her payment over what she can afford. And you're getting that money coming in every single month, because once you set it, you forget it. And then you're going to get that money into your bank account once a month. All right. So these are just other business options that you can do to help keep cash flow moving using technology.
What is the time frame that you can expect for the money to hit your account?
Of what?
When you use card choice, when can you expect that money to hit your account versus?
Okay, It's a great question. So it depends what technology you end up using. Our traditional go-to, let's say, processing relationship is 48 hours. So after you batch, that money's in your account in 2 business days. Or surcharging, the money's in your account next day. If we use another technology, the money's in your account next day. So it really depends on your business model. So I guess that answers, I have next day funding, or I have 48 hours. It depends what products you need. That's why when we sit with somebody, I like to talk to them about their business. How do you communicate after you're done? Do you take a deposit up front? Let's have those types of conversations. And then I could kind of know as we're talking where I'm going to be putting you, what technology. And then we'll talk about pricing structure at that point and how it benefits you. And again, guys, me being a contractor, I always gave concession pricing. That was one of the main reasons when we got into business in 2003, we sold over 400 wireless terminals to credit card, to plumbers mostly. And I made sure, because they would go typically to the bank if they took credit cards at that point, or they key entered it in over the phone. Well, we were able to bring their pricing down, where if they didn't know me, honest to God, at that point, they were getting ripped off so bad because the bankers all took advantage of them. It was all about how much profit can they make for the bank, how much profit, even if you're using Stripe or PayPal, those are not great options if you have a high average ticket. Okay. So when you're in a high average ticket industry like you are, the PayPals and the Stripes, they are a single price type of business. The way that their model works, they did it for everybody, whether you are, like you said, a plumber, or whether you're selling skis out of the back end of your car and you take a PayPal or a Stripe payment or one of those square things, whatever they're called. They work on a 3.25% percentage. And if you're in a high ticket, which you guys probably all are, you never want to be in a fixed rate. You always want to be like what Steve was saying earlier. You want to be in a fluctuating rate with maybe like some basis points over. So that's a whole nother concept, especially for this conversation with your industry tonight. You would want to run from that fixed rate.
Well,
go ahead, Cal.
I mean, this is way back at the beginning of the conversation. You guys said something, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but you said like no sign up fee that you guys charge. No lease.
No contract.
And no contract. Yeah.
Hey, Kelley, hold on. Let me jump. Kelley, so we spoke about multiple programs. So let me try and narrow you down a little further, please. Because certain programs carry certain fee structures. So the first one we're speaking about was traditional credit card processing. Okay. I think that's kind of how we started. And then about 5 or 8 minutes in, I rolled us into surcharging, because that's really such a powerful tool right now, is the surcharging piece. So which one, please, are you speaking about?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm mainly, I just wanted to share real quick that, some of these merchant service companies, they don't have the contractor's interest best. It's not at it's just what I think Steve was saying, where it's all about how much the bank can make, how much their company can make. And I fell victim to this. There was a very good salesman that walked through my door and showed me how I could save all this money, and, did the free evaluation and looked at my current merchant service that I was using. And at the end of the day, I wound up signing a contract. I didn't read the fine print. It was 4 years, a lease payment of like $136 a month for 4 years. And I'm not leasing anything. Like, we use our phone for it. I don't know what you call the card swipers. Like, they wouldn't work with half of our phones, and the guys would lose them in the vans, and like, it's just a complete waste of money. Yeah. And in order to get out of that contract, I found out, talking to other people, that it was about double what a normal credit card merchant service would charge to exit the contract. So I just wanted to make sure to say that it sounds like what you guys are doing, and like, you're truly helping contractors stop getting screwed over.
Yeah, you know what? That was why when we got into business, I focused on contractors because my whole family's contractors. And I know that the financial people, the ones that wear those fancy suits and the ties, all they want is your money. And they think that they can prey upon you and bill you what you want. That's it. So I said, once we got registered and we got into what we call the interchange pricing system, which is the same pricing that Walmart has, we can now have educated conversations with our contractors in any business, for that example, that we wanted to help, and that's kind of always been our philosophy. Listen, we need to make money too, but we don't have to be pigs about it. Okay. So we make a little bit of money on a lot of people, and it sounds cliche-ish, but that's our philosophy. And it's always been our philosophy, but we do have a warm spot in our heart for the contract.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. One quick thing, Gil, is that when I went back and did the math, I was paying 5 or a little over 5%.
Right, Kelley.
Just so you guys know, like the listeners out there, like it's very easy to get trapped into one of these, and you don't want to do that. So
yeah, and just what you just said, Kelley, that's what I tell all my clients. Figure out what your effective rate is. Don't worry about what the bank told you. Don't worry about what it says on a website, 2.9 and 30. That means nothing. It's what is it at the end of the day? You take the fees that were charged and just divide it by the volume that you did. You could do that with your gas and utility bill. You could do that with your phone bill. It's the same thing. You just take the fee and divide it by whatever you used. And that's how you figure out an effective rate. And I'll tell you, most of the CPAs that I talk to in New York, they don't understand. And that's the basic thing that I could tell all business. Like, you should be able to do that tomorrow and say, okay, how much is the credit card fee digging into my, and that's the simple formula that we could all do.
So most of these companies out there, whether they're using a CRM or not, they should just assume, because I know that you said some are okay, some aren't. You can't say it across the board. So as a rule of thumb, should we just tell our listeners to assume that you're getting screwed?
No.
Like to at least, at least look into it to make sure you're not.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can answer that for you, Gil. Actually, I forgot to mention this ahead of time, but Card Choice, actually, we want to provide those of you that are interested with some great financial offers at the end of this year. And one of those and this is just across the board. There's no timetable on when they need to contact us, but we actually want to offer a comprehensive free statement analysis. So them looking at your merchant statement, going through it, explaining it to you so you know what you're even looking at, because half the time people don't even know what it is that's on that paper. And feel free to extend that to your family, to your friends, to anybody you know that owns a business. Gil will put my contact information in there. We'll get you set up so that they can take a look at things. And we are actually going to guarantee you that we will lower your credit card processing. If we don't, we'll pay you $150 for your time.
And it sounds cliche, Mary.
We'll do it. But we know that we'll be able to do it because of how the company functions and how we work with people. And we truly, they're constantly reviewing people's accounts and like, oh, hey, this isn't the best model for you anymore. Let's switch to this. And that phone rings, there's somebody to talk to. You try to call Stripe or Square,
no.
You're not going to get anywhere. Nobody's going to be there.
And Mary, just to allude to that too, with the pricing. So a lot of times I could match people's pricing. I match it and they're still going to save money. So people don't realize, it's not about just the rate. It's not just about moving that number down, right? It's maybe you're using the wrong technology that's not capturing the best pricing, right? So people don't realize this. They just think it's just the rate. Oh, I was at 2.29. Card Choice said they'll do it at 2.19. Wow, they lowered my rate. No, that's not what it's about. It's about the holistic approach. It's about, think about this. We actually wrote an article when COVID kicked because we work a lot in the medical space. And so medical doctors, we're all going through the same problems, right? We all are. And so one of the issues in the medical space was, doctors that normally see patients in a face-to-face environment already had their credit card processing in place. And now what happened is they switched to more of what we call a keyed environment because they were doing stuff over the webinars over the internet, right? They're doing like these teledoc over, and so they were just using their standard credit card processing that they were using before. What happened is because now they went to a keyed environment, their risk level went up, baked into that contract, right? That Kelley didn't read was a provision that said, well, if you don't do all these cards swiped that you were doing, it's going to cost you another 1.5%, 2% more for each one of those transactions. So it's in your best interest to renegotiate with the bank because your business model changed, right? So we're not even talking about, I'm going to lower your price at this point. I'm talking about, your business changed. And that's why we like to have a consult with our clients because no one does business the same way. Some want to collect payment right at the point of service. Some want to send a statement out. So, it's not a one size fits all. And that's why when we say we will definitely guarantee a savings, and in some cases, it might not be a lot because in some cases you're written really tight as it is. And we'll tell you that. I'll tell a lot of people, you're written really well. Stay with where, if you're happy where you're at, stay there. And so that's why I said it's free to call us, to email us, to phone call. We're here to help. I think I turn away more business than I write business because it's not in their best interest to move for, a couple of dollars of savings. You're doing good. Stay there. I just wanted to add that, Mary, because
that's
it's
good.
not just.
And I love how
price.
you guys said that you do all sizes. So whether you're a guy out there and it's you, one truck on the road, and you're taking credit cards, or you got 30 trucks on the road, that this is still good for everybody. And especially with COVID, a lot of places now they don't want to take cash. They want card payments only. Because of, the way it's working. So that's the direction we're going. So if you're going to run your business that way, I know for me, I want COD as much as possible. I don't want to bill people. I perform the service. Let's get paid for it. Let's move on. Cause I don't want to chase people
cash
down.
Is king. We got to have,
yes.
If we don't collect today, it's worth less tomorrow, and it's worth less the next day and less the next day. So we want to collect as soon as possible. Yeah,
exactly. And it's just, I don't know. I forgot where I was going now. God dang you, Kelley. But
you want to be COD is what you said. So, yeah.
So
go ahead, though. It's all right.
Yeah. I was just going to say, what advice do you have to people who are doing cash discounts?
So that's a great one. So I have no advice for them. So you and I, we were talking earlier this afternoon, right? Mary is it's the holiday now, and so for the holiday, our family there's a delicatessen that's around here. They make just the best sloppy Joe sandwiches, and we before we eat the fish, we love to have these sandwiches, right? And so back in the day, when Ray and I were investigating, should we offer surcharging to our customers? Back at the time, there was a thing called cash discounting. And we were like, well, what's the difference? I don't understand cash discount, but they're promoting it, kind of oddball. And so in my engineering mind, cash discount is that, this deli that I go to, right on the wall, it says, if you pay in cash, save 5%. So if the platter costs $100, I'm expecting if I pay in cash, it's going to be $95. And I walk out. That's a cash discount. What a lot of softwares are doing and what a lot of merchants are doing is they're trying to be slick, and they're saying, oh, we do a cash discount. But if you give us a credit card, what the software does, right? So say it was $100. It takes the $100 and it adds a cash. If you pay by cash, it'll leave it at $100. If you pay by credit card, it's going to add 5% to the bill. So you're going to pay $105. To me, that's surcharging. You're charging more for a credit card. Visa came out with a mandate, actually a bulletin, that states if you charge more because of the use of a credit card, we don't care what you call it. We look at it as a surcharge, and we will come after you, right? So the word cash discount should only mean that the prices that you're advertising or you're promoting on your service, it's the price that your credit card price, right? And if you do a cash discount, you would discount off of that price down. That's the only way a cash discount could logically be understood. That's the way Visa understands it. That's the way my deli understands it, right? It's the only way there's no way to look at it any differently. You can call it whatever you want. If you charge more because you're, taking a credit card, that's a surcharge. So I would rather just come right up front with clients and say, you know what it is because a lot of salespeople don't like to use the word surcharge. That's what it is. Surcharge is a negative thing. Oh, I'm not going to surcharge. It's a cash discount, right? So it's a sales pitch. So that's my advice. My advice to all the contractors is don't go down that rabbit hole, because if a consumer files a complaint with Visa, you're in violation of losing your rights to take credit cards, and we don't want that.
Guys, you mind if I jump in one more time, Cal or Gil? So here's some advice.
Yeah,
software management in your space is relatively new. Let's say it's within 8 years. And, there's a lot of companies popping up every 2 years or every year. And there's a lot of that going on. A lot of them are accepting credit cards now or having a credit card integration. So my point is, in the medical space, it's the only way I can correlate it. Medical software has been around for 20 years, 25 years. And there's statistical data in the medical space that says you're going to switch your medical operating software every 4 years. Because what happens is it starts to niche in, whether you're for pediatrics or whether you're for cardio or whether you are. So the HVAC industry is getting all of these maybe, why is House Call Pro different than Service Titan? Like, is it just price or is there operational benefits by me going from here to here? So now the point I'm getting to is in the medical space, they switch every 4 or 5 years to get something better. But what they fail to forget is their credit card payments sit still inside the old software they've been managing. So what I'm going to tell you as a takeaway from tonight is get with a company like us. It doesn't have to be us, but just information, and run your payments outside of your credit card, of your software. If you have that opportunity to discuss that with us, I'd love to speak to you about it. Because when you do move, it's not if, it's when you will move to a better software that's going to narrow your time spent doing something. You're going to like a feature, but you can't take your credit card payments with it. So if you set up your credit card payments over here, it will go with you as you grow and mature your business. We don't care what software you're using. You're always going to have your payment hub here. And also your pricing is always going to be superior because the software company isn't making a markup on you. Okay. It's kind of like going to the bank. You're coming to Steve and I and Mary, and we're going to give you the most aggressive price you're going to see because there's no middleman. It's us. So we'll show you, like I said, one software that we have. Mary's going to talk about a special we're going to do. And this is something that you may want to look at or embrace or talk to us after the fact. And we'll show you how to benefit your industry. Excuse me, your company. I apologize. So that's all I have. And I think we're almost.
What other questions do you have, Gil, Kelley? I mean, you guys.
I actually have a quick question. So we decide to use your software and just say I'm using Service Titan. My technician goes out to collect payment. Is he now collecting payment in your stuff and he's not doing it in Service Titan anymore?
That's correct.
So,
and you can do that, Gil, because we did that for a while. I was late to adopt their
and it just depends what model
services.
You want to go with too, Gil. It can be very, very simple. Surcharging wise, there is a lot of options. I just boarded a company that is using a different kind of software for managing their business. And they weren't taking credit cards because they didn't want to pay the fees. And so they adopted our surcharging model, and they just have a shortcut on their phone. They hit the shortcut, it takes them right into where they key enter in the information. And it's as simple as that.
And I'm going to chime to Mary's account there because I helped her with it in the very beginning because there's some moving parts. So I wanted to be a part of it to make sure everything was understood properly. She said that the money she was saving was so well benefiting her company that she doesn't mind taking, okay, Mr. Jones paid for that, and then going over and use Service Titan as an example and marking the customer paid inside of Service Titan. That's it.
And that's what I was just asking. So that is something that we'll take the credit card and then we just mark, Kelley, when you were doing it, you just put paid by, paid by credit card or just paid.
100% paid. Well, we put the name of the credit card or the type of credit card just for on the back end for the accounting side to be able to match it to the customer. Sometimes that would get a little tricky.
We do that actually in one of our software products. We'll manage that all for you. So if you go over to Mrs. Jones's house tomorrow and she gives you a credit card, you can actually key in her name, her street address, her credit card number, her backup credit card number, her debit card, or her ACH information all inside of this product.
Additionally, too, you could actually tag if you want custom fields. So, for instance, we have
and they don't cost any more, the custom fields. I just want to make sure that that's a big word. There's no custom other than the product.
Right. So the software allows, right, because it's flexible, right? So some clients want to put a technician's name, right? They might be giving credit to a technician. Some might want the invoice number. So it can be tracked, right? In case you had two people with the same last name, Smith and Smith, the bookkeeper's now, trying to put Smith to Smith. You can now say, well, it's Smith with invoice number, 1040. And so, it's all these pieces are very easy, to bring in and track. And the reason I'm saying this is because we have so many clients that are running payments outside of their software, Business owners, me, myself included, when I had the 4 bike shops, I had everything linked together. I was way ahead of I had networking going between, so I could see inventory and all the different locations. The one thing I vowed to not do was run my credit card processing inside the software. And I kind of was thinking back then, I didn't want to feel trapped. I didn't want to feel, because I was switching processors all the time, right? So because I was switching processors trying to get the best deal, why would I bake myself and stick myself inside their only, process? So it's interesting too. In the United States, it seems like everyone's looking for the easy way. Like all the software vendors that's all they can sell. Like once they build their software, it's like, okay, now what bell can I put on it? What whistle can I put on to keep that revenue? Because once they spend the millions and millions and millions of dollars to get the software where it needs to be, well, now they have to start building hubs and, and build on top of that and then generate revenue off of this. And so what happens is that one company is trying to do that. A startup's coming up is doing it already. It's like they're like for the software vendors to undo what they did wrong to catch up with the new technology. Well, the newer software company, and that's why people are moving so much to software. In Europe, when you go to Europe, they have all these POS systems and they have a credit card machine right outside always. So when someone says, well, it's not that easy, it's an excuse. It's excuse-itis, right? The name of the game is put more money in your checking account. If your bookkeeper's complaining, get a new bookkeeper. Seriously. I mean, don't listen to the bookkeeper complaining, because all they're doing is just going like this. They're just moving things, back and forth. I've told that many, right, Ray? I've been in medical practices where I actually told the doctor to fire your practice manager, because what's happening is the business manager was just complaining about everything. The doctor didn't want to hear it, so he just did it. Business owners, you should take control of your business. If it's not feeling right, then change it. Right? We don't force people to change, but if you're only running, even if you're running 100 invoices a month, right? How much work is that to just manually say, we collected this, we collected this, we collected that? I mean, I'm in the merchant services business. We use QuickBooks to do all our accounting. I don't run my credit cards through QuickBooks, although I know that QuickBooks has an integration. Why? Because I'd be a fool to pay twice as much for credit card processing inside of QuickBooks. Why? For the slickness of it. So it's definitely something to consider. I would, before jumping and doing that, I would say let's evaluate what you're paying for your credit cards baked inside the system, and is it good? Great, then stay there, because now you have the ease of the software, plus you're doing good with your pricing.
And just to throw out there, I mean, I think a good comparison is, when you look at these processors, right, that are popping up, Stripe, Square, PayPal, all of those systems, you got to I like to look at it as a sense of, kind of looking at it from a doctor's side of things. So if you're going to go under the knife for surgery, do you want to go under the knife for surgery with somebody that's done 10,000 surgeries or someone that just graduated?
Yeah.
Who do you want to be with when things are going on? I want to be with somebody that I know has done plenty of these and is accredited and is board certified and has all of that taken care of. And I don't have to rely on the fact that they are talking to somebody else that is certified and is registered and they're telling them what they should do. I just rather go straight to the source. So, that's kind of one of the benefits of working with a company like ours. And we never really mentioned this, but our company is an ISO, which means we're an independent sales organization. So our business can function independently. And like they said, we report and are registered directly to Visa. So we don't have that middleman process of somebody taking some of the profit that we put in your bank account.
So, Kelley, before we were talking about, cancellation fees and setup fees. So one of the benefits that Ray and I have, right, is so the banks, right? So the banks that we work for, there's a contract, right? So there's no contract would be a flat out lie, right? Because it is a banking product. So there's an underwriting process. So there is a contract.
There's rules and regulations that are involved.
That's right. And so the point is, because Ray and I are registered, we are now able to go to our bank and say, this client, we no cancellation fee on this one, right? We want this one to be a 90-day trial. Because usually it's a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year contract, like you said, and it's not us doing the contracts, it's the banks, and the banks are regulated by Visa. So no one could just say we don't do this because Visa says the rule is this, we all have to do it, right? It's like an association. So one bank can't say, oh, no, we don't have a contract. No, technically you do. It's a question of, is
there a cancellation fee or not?
Yeah. Are they going to charge the cancellation fee?
Are you waiving it? And what are you writing?
That's some of the clarity. I mean, that's one of the main things that Mary brought up. And, when Ray and I went and spoke to the New York State Society of CPAs, it's one of the largest associations, professional associations in the United States. And, and here was, this is when Ray and I kind of first was, we were, 6 years maybe into our business, 5 years into our business. And we walk in Park Avenue over in New York City, and we're like, we don't have a shot at this at all. I mean, there on the bids was Bank
Chase
of America,
Wells.
Wells Fargo, Citibank, TD Bank, all these big banks. And here's Card Choice. We're not a bank. Here's Card Choice. We sat in front of a board, a strict board, right? All
Similar to this.
Yeah, real similar.
Yeah.
The sweat. But the key was the lesson that we learned early on in the career is we left that meeting.
I see bigger arms on a chair.
Hey,
we left that meeting. We left that meeting, and we drove back to New Jersey. And halfway back to New Jersey, we got a phone call from one of the board. And the board member said, "You know what? I don't think the rest of the board understands what you guys are talking about. Like, you got to come back here." And so we did. We drove right back into New York. We sat with this board member, and he said, I got to flip these other board members. And we're like, "Why?" He says, "Because you are like a boutique." That's what I'm getting from our conversation. You're not a one size fits all. Our organization, the New York State Society of CPAs, was not a one size fits all. You have one-off CPA solo practitioners. And then we have some of the largest CPA firms just sitting, massive, international. We need somebody who could speak at all levels. And they didn't get that. They just heard Bank of America, Wells Fargo. They heard the brand name. They didn't hear what it was you could do for our membership base. And we have been partners with them since that.
I think it's 14 years now. Yeah.
14 years we've been in that partnership. And every year when we redo our conversation or our contract with them, the CFO says, "I just want to let you guys know, I have a pile of letters of people wanting to get your job, they want to be merchant services for the state of New, and they won't do it
because they know what they have."
Yeah, I mean, it's
awesome.
Honest, integrity, and always doing the right thing. So I want to jump in. I don't know how some of your users, if they are integrated or using the integrated processor, and Stripe, let's say, is the credit card processor of record, or PayPal. What does that chargeback look like? So if there's ever a chargeback done, that may be a question for your listeners. How is that process handled? Because on our side, I'll give you a real life example that happened about 3 weeks ago. We have a wholesale contractor that sells plumbing supplies to a plumber, right? The job was quoted. The plumber said, "Yes, I agree to the quote." The job was worth, say, $25,000. So the wholesaler, we'll call them the supply house for argument's sake, the supplier shipped it out to the plumber. The plumber then installed it on the third floor. While the install was happening, the plumber said, "Hey, we're missing this part, and this part." And the wholesaler said, "Well, wait a second. Those are extra. They're not coming. They don't come with it." So the plumber got pissed off. But the wholesaler said, "Look at your quote. They're not there. They're not quoted. I'm not giving you another $5,000 worth of parts. It just doesn't." Long story short, the plumber did a chargeback against our customer. And this goes to all you listeners. If you're working with us, you're going to get my heart and soul, just like Steve and Mary, because this is the way we think. When someone's going after one of our family members, because that's how we treat you, we're going to bat. So I went to bat for our customer, and we won the chargeback. So he won his $25,000 back, or 23 and change, whatever the hell it was. It took about 3 weeks, to be honest with you, because there's an arbitration that goes back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. But I helped him write the letter. He did not have to get a lawyer involved at this point, and we were able to win this chargeback. So that's how passionate we are when our customers are right. So just keep throwing that out there. If there's especially in your industry, because you have such high tickets, potential high tickets.
Well, sadly, we're a little over an hour, and an hour, if people go too long, they start wrecking fucking trucks and stuff, riding off the road. But I guess if before me and Kelley close this out, I guess whichever one of you wants to take it, just close out whatever you kind of want to leave our listeners with the last little message.
Yeah, I can take that for you, Gil. So, I think the whole, like I mentioned in the beginning, the whole point of this isn't switch to card choice, come to card choice. It really is. We just want you to know. We want you to be aware that there's all of these moving parts, and you can't be an expert in HVAC or plumbing or electrical and be an expert in credit card processing. They're two separate beasts, right? You have to rely on people that really know what they're doing for other things. So, even if it's just you want us to talk to you and help you understand what you're currently doing, we're happy to do that. As I mentioned, we'll do that free comprehensive analysis for you. And if we can't save you money, we'll give you $150 for it. But we also, if you want to stick with traditional credit card processing, you just want to save more money and you don't want to stick with some flat one size fits all pricing model, we also will offer to anyone who wants to move over to Card Choice, start a new merchant account. We will be happy to help you get access to our software platform. It's going to allow you to store credit cards, ACH payments, reoccurring payments. You're going to be able to have that going on, online transactions, emailable invoices, even a link to your website if you want somebody to pay directly on your site. All of that, you're going to have all of that, but it typically is a $99 setup fee. We're going to waive that, as well as the $25 a month subscription that you would typically pay. We'll waive that as well through January 31st. So if that's something you're interested in, we are going to, anybody that's stuck with us and is truly interested in really making a difference in their profit margins in their business, we are offering that as well. If surcharging isn't the direction you want to go, but you still want to be with somebody that's done 10,000 surgeries. We are here to help you.
For damn sure. Well, hey, from me and Kelley both, we thank you guys so much for coming on here tonight, because this is something that, I appreciate you reaching out to me, Mary, because I didn't fucking know anything about this. I just know, I look at what's in the bank. I see the guys are charging credit cards, and I know that I pay fees and stuff like that. But I just always, not to sound dumb, but I just always thought that it kind of was what it was. I didn't really have any other options. It's one of those things that you kind of got to take it on the chin, and there's not really shit you can do about it. But now to know that there is other options and I can keep doing what I'm doing, but try to save some money and get a little bit more back in my pocket. It kind of sounds like a no-brainer. It just sounds like.
I also feel like it takes you to get to a certain point in your business before you have any time to deal with anything like this. So especially the younger businesses they're busy managing people. They're busy, putting out fires. I wish I could have found you guys 12 years ago when I started my company, because
you kind of sound like Bono now.
It was not.
You finally found what you were looking for.
I have not had good experiences in the past with credit card merchant services.
So, hey, Kelley, I'll jump in. We have 0 complaints since we opened in 2003.
Which is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Well, there was one complaint that was withdrawn.
But it wasn't real. So you're right. Yeah. You're right. And she ended up crying.
She cried and said, "I'm so sorry. I wrote a negative complaint about you. I was having a bad day and I took it out on you. And it was not your fault whatsoever." That's the only.
It's funny you remembered that.
All right,
guys. Gil,
thank you guys so much
Kelley,
for having
your audience. Fantastic.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yes, definitely.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Mary, send me the information so how I can tell all the listeners to get in touch with you guys, or if you want to say something real fast. Is there a website they should go to?
Where should they go to?
Absolutely. So you can always reach out to me. You can get me directly at 563-513-8177. You can call me, you can text me, any of those methods. You can also reach out to me by email. It's M as in Mary, LENT, Lent, like Easter Lent, at cardchoice.com. And I'll throw you a media file so that you can just embed it in the video so that you've got that in there, and people don't have to worry about trying to write it, as well as is the offers that we're throwing out there.
We can definitely do that. All right. Well, once again, thank you guys for coming on. This is really good. I think it's something people need to know. We always want our listeners to try to be better at whatever we do. And this is something that we can be better at that we didn't even know we could be better at. So Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you guys. And thank you so much. And we're going to close this thing out real fast.
Yeah, guys, I think definitely need to check this out. Get a hold of Mary and find out some more information so you can save money. Like they said, the average contractor is like, we're charging at least $25,000 a month in credit card processing, and that can equate to at least $800. That's potentially going to go straight to your bottom line or in your pocket, just in some savings. So it could be a little less, could be a little more, who knows, but it's worth checking out because there's always that possibility to put some more money in your pocket. So please tell your friends, family, coworkers, the supply houses that you go into, your boss, like tell them about the podcast. We're trying to serve you guys. We're trying to give you the information you need to get better at business and your career. So please subscribe to everything that we got out there. Join us on the HVAC Uncensored Nation Facebook group and leave us a review. Other than that, go make money.
Yeah, everybody. I agree with Kelley. Something like this, like they just said, they're giving you all these things. It's a no-brainer. If what you're doing is correct, then they're going to tell you, hey, you're actually, you got it right. It's good. You shouldn't switch. It's no hurt. Guys, we're always looking at KPIs and we're looking at different numbers and the revenue in our company and how to increase revenue and take money from here and put it here. This is something we have to do. We have to take credit cards. If we want to be a legitimate business, we have to take credit cards. So if we have to do it, it's something we have to do, and we can actually make a little bit more money back off of it. I mean, think about it. Why the fuck wouldn't you do that? So I definitely think this is something worth looking into. Just for worst case scenario, like I said, even if you're doing everything right, okay, now you just got confirmation from people who know what they're talking about. Hey, you're good. But if you're not, now you can get the information to just fix one more thing in your business that you don't have to worry about. One less headache that you don't have to worry about. All right. So, yeah, like Kelley said, man, we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys for making this, one of the biggest and best HVAC podcasts that are out there in podcast land. I'm not sure when I'm going to do this, but just in case, if it comes out beforehand, we hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, all that good stuff, man. Remember, we always tell you, set yourself apart from the next guy. Do those little things like this. Do the little things that other people don't do. All right. Be safe. Always make it home the same way you left. We all got somebody to go home to. All right. And yeah, until next week, I'll talk with you motherfuckers later. All right. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions of our sponsors or guests.